Good morning, everyone. Google went on trial this week in a lawsuit that could change the way big tech companies do business. The Justice Department and more than a dozen states accuse the company of illegally limiting online search options. Google strongly denies that. Jolene Kent reports.
Google's my best friend. I love Google.
Google's your best friend.
Yes,
Why?
I mean, because
literally we're walking right now trying to find a pizza place and I'm Googling it.
When you search for something online, a lot of people call it the same thing.
I Google weekly.
I'm Googling everything.
How often are you Googling stuff on your phone?
Like 30 times, like every day.
But now that popularity and how it came to be has landed Google, the company, in federal court. The Justice Department and more than a dozen states are taking on the tech giant in a landmark antitrust trial beginning today. The government claims Google illegally pays billions of dollars to Apple, Samsung, LG, and beyond to make Google the default search engine on your phone and computers, shutting out rivals like Microsoft Bing and DuckDuckGo. This, the government says, allows Google to dominate nearly 90% of all searches in the U.S. and 95% of searches on mobile devices.
Would you ever change?
to where?
The government also says Google uses that dominance to charge advertisers higher prices and favors advertising on its own platform and steers advertiser spending towards itself. Google denies any wrongdoing. Is Google breaking the law here?
No, we're not. We believe that people use Google because it's helpful. The case comes down to two important principles: competition and choice. Competition, you've never seen more choice, whether that's TikTok or Reddit or Amazon or Expedia.
Google's chief legal officer, Kent Walker, also says if a user doesn't want to use Google as the default, they can change it.
It really couldn't be easier. You can sit at home on your couch and change what search engine you're using. It's as easy as changing your shoes.
It's as easy as changing your shoes.
Well, we see lots of people doing it.
Is it easy?
Definitely not. It's definitely not easy. I feel like, here, you would probably have to go. See, I don't even know where it is.
And for small companies trying to compete for your business online, critics of Google say it's nearly impossible.
Google's dominance means that a lot of innovators that might come along in the tech space, really can't get a toehold. If we, take action against these tech monopolies, really insist that they, that they cannot be these dominant gatekeepers, we open up the market, and we're going to see all kinds of innovations and new developments, online.
Now, this trial could really change how small businesses are able to compete with the giant Google, and the trial is expected to last 10 weeks. Now, if Google loses, it could end up facing fines, damages, a potential restructuring. And if any of this sounds familiar to you, you'll remember that Microsoft antitrust case from 1998. Well, it turns out that is the exact same year a little startup called Google was officially founded in Silicon Valley. Jolene Kent, CBS News, Washington.
Well, schools nationwide are dealing with a teacher shortage, and low wages are a big part of that problem. One school in Connecticut is trying to something new by building homes where the teachers live rent-free. Bradley Blackburn has that story.
A few blocks from the Friends Center for Children in New Haven, Connecticut, where kids are busy at play, work is underway on a place for their teachers to live. For two preschool teachers and their families, these 2,100 square feet will have the comforts of home at almost no cost.
They do pay their own utilities, but they have free rent.
Alex Schiavone says this housing helps solve a big problem: how to raise teachers' pay when schools don't have the budget for bigger salaries.
We take the teacher's salary and we add the benefit on top of it, which brings them to really a more professional and livable wage.
Next month, teacher Kristen Calderon and her 9-year-old son will move in, next door to Paris Pierce and her 3 children.
I'm just in awe of what's happening.
The housing is valued at about $1,800 a month, the equivalent of a 50% boost in take-home pay. They say they can now build savings while living in a safe place.
I did spend a portion of my son's infancy homeless, and so security and having a home is a really big thing for us.
They're living in a brand new house.
Yeah, it's pretty remarkable. Not only is it a brand new house, but it's a house that they got to design.
They collaborated with Yale architecture students who are constructing the homes. 4 more are planned in a 2-acre teachers' village.
The most amazing aspect of it is it's a one-time investment. So we're paying for the house, and then we have that return for the teacher and for our program forever.
a blueprint they hope more schools and leaders will consider to build a future for teachers from the ground up. Bradley Blackburn, CBS News, New Haven, Connecticut.
And the school says the housing program will eventually save them $500,000 every year and help them effectively raise salaries for all teachers, even those who do not live in the housing. Well, the need is great. We'll tell you why and how you can help ahead on Mid-Morning. In the more than 2 decades since the 9/11 attacks, there are still things about that day that we don't know a lot about. We know that fighter pilots were scrambled. Lieutenant General Mark Sasselville and then First Lieutenant Heather Penny scrambled F-16s without time to load missiles looking for rogue aircraft like Flight 93. They knew they might need to ram the plane, a decision they never had to make. Here's Nora O'Donnell.
When I think about the mission that we didn't have to do, because the passengers on Flight 93 did. Clearly, not only does our nation owe so much to those heroes, but Sass and I owe our lives to them as well. They shouldn't have had to have made the choice to sacrifice their lives. But that's also why, when I think of 9/11, instead of being overcome by the trauma and the horror and the tragedy, I'm actually overcome by hope because of the character and the bravery and the service to all of us that they demonstrated that day, and the other heroes of 9/11, the first responders and, neighbors that opened up their homes to strangers. That the best of who we are was demonstrated on that day. And that's part of what I hope to live through my daily choices and to honor their legacy and their gift to us. So in some ways, living my life as normally as possible is the biggest way that we can say that the terrorists did not win.
And now a warning from the American Red Cross, the organization that provides about 40% of the nation's blood and blood components to patients in need, says their supply has hit what it calls critically low levels. Mandy Gaither has more on what led to the shortage and how you can help.
For months, back-to-back climate-driven disasters have further strained the U.S. blood supply, forcing the American Red Cross to sound the alarm, saying their supplies are critically low.
It has become challenging for us to meet the demand of our hospitals.
With a busy summer travel season and back-to-school activities, the organization was already seeing low donor turnout. That, paired with blood drive cancellations because of extreme weather, has led to the national blood supply dropping by nearly 25% since early August, despite a constant demand.
Blood cannot be manufactured, it can't be stockpiled, and really it's the blood on the shelves on a daily basis that is needed to save lives.
From emergencies to cancer patients and women in delivery, blood is used to help patients every day. Red Cross says all blood types are urgently needed, but there's an emergency need for platelet donors and type O blood donors.
About 40% of this country's population is eligible to donate, and only about 4% do.
When Hurricane Idalia slammed into the southeast, the Red Cross says it was unable to collect more than 700 units of blood and platelets, and the storm season isn't over. Hurricane Lee is now being closely monitored.
The need is constant, and it's the patients that are at the other end of this life-saving product.
For Health Minute, I'm Mandy Gaither.
So if you're interested in giving blood or platelets, you can make an appointment through the Red Cross Blood app. You can visit redcrossblood.org, or you can call the 800 number. It is 1-800-RED-CROSS. When we come back, a preview of summer camp for grown-ups. It's called Buddy Games. That's ahead on Mid-Morning. All right, welcome back. California is far and away the leading wine-producing state in the U.S., but other regions are coming on strong and becoming tourism hotspots. It's big business, raking in more than $50 billion in revenues domestically last year. That's according to Vantage Market Research. Wendy Gillette reports from Hot Springs, Virginia.
Wine enthusiasts know Napa Valley. The region boasts about a third of California's wineries, some now high-tech, like Ink Grade's 360-degree video projection and tasting. Others feature epic views like Arteza or high-end food and wine pairings, available at Heights Cellar and Stag's Leap Wine Cellars. But far from California, the wine world is welcoming newcomers in Texas Hill Country west of Austin. At Ferris and Fletch in picturesque Fredericksburg, Rick Dvorak from San Antonio recently stopped by for a tasting.
I enjoy any wine, but some of these wines are really good.
Sprinkled among quaint hotels like Hill Country Herb Garden with its standalone cottages, Enophiles find more than 100 wineries, from the small batch wine producer Narrow Path to the much larger Becker Vineyards.
The industry is fairly young by comparison to other wine growing regions in the country.
After a mere 4 decades of serious grape growing, Texas has the 5th most wineries in the nation, behind New York, Oregon, Washington, and California.
It tends to be a little bit hotter here, so our harvest season's a little bit earlier and finishes a little bit earlier than most places.
Another big slice of wine country is here in Virginia. The state ranks 6th in the nation for the number of wineries, around 300.
The Omni Homestead, one of the hotels we stayed at for a special rate, capitalizes on the winery's popularity with Virginia Wine Weekends, showcasing local winemakers and pairing bottles with multi-course dinners.
What is distinctive of Virginia terroir is that all of our wines have a more floral essence. There's a minerality component that is long in our finish.
23 U.S. presidents have stayed at the resort and bathed in its mineral springs and perhaps sipped a little Virginia wine produced from more than 4,000 acres. Wendy Gillette, CBS News.
What started out as a hobby has become so much more for a man in Wisconsin. He has collected more than 40,000 records that spans decades. Toby Moore takes a look.
This is all A's, and this is A's. And there's records in here that go back a long time.
When you step inside Larry Dakin's home in Altoona, you're greeted with music. Music in the air.
I haven't heard this one in a long time.
And records lining the walls.
I don't have the exact number, but it was close to 46,000 at one point until I sold 4,000, so it's probably over 41,000 yet.
His collection includes records of all types and sizes.
Here's an interesting record. Aluminum.
And ranging back over 100 years to the early 1900s.
Look at the number of people that have tried to make a living selling their voice.
Dakin first started collecting around 20 years ago when he bought an old phonograph.
There was records that came with it, and I was amazed what was in those records. It's kind of interesting. So then it went from there on, and it hasn't stopped.
He believes some of his more rare records could be worth over $1,000.
You can have a lot of records that are the same, but there's a few that have some differences, and those are rare, and they bring a lot more money.
But he's not ready to sell, at least not yet.
I think if I wanted to, if I ever get to that point, I don't think I ever will, I could just open up a store here and sell records. I got enough variety.
Dakin says his collection isn't about the money, it's about the music.
Music has been proven to be uplifting, and it takes you to different places, and it changes moods, it lifts moods, it's healthy.
It allows him to reconnect with history, with the artists, and himself.
I listened to music when I was growing up now, and it just takes me back, and it's almost invaluable. And those people are all gone now, so all that's left is their recordings. So, to your question, what's about it? I don't know. It just does something to you.
All right, so do you wish you had time to relive your glory days? Well, this week, 6 teams of lifelong friends will have the chance to do just that when they embark on a nostalgic summer camp adventure on the new reality competition series, Buddy Games. The competitors will bunk together and will compete in absurd mental and physical challenges for the chance to take home the Buddy Games trophy and a cash prize. Host and creator Josh Duhamel has your behind-the-scenes look. Take a look at it.
You have no idea how excited I am
these pretty faces.
We are at Camp Buddy Games. This feels like an adult summer camp.
Go on the sound of my bugle, all right? Good luck.
Buddy Games came about 20 years ago with a group of my friends who wanted an excuse to get back together. And we always dreamt about having a show based on that because we knew other people around the country did versions of this. We wanted to sort of share what we do and allow people to let that kid out. How often in life do you get a chance to go play, be with your friends, and compete against a bunch of other friends? And that's exactly what this place is for.
I can't ask them to do anything that I wouldn't do myself, right?
We're used to competing, sometimes against each other, but now we're competing all together to go crush other people.
We have 6 teams of 4. Every episode there will be one big game, and the team that loses has to send one of their contestants home.
You're going to be facing off in Losers Last Stand.
What we looked for was people that have certain qualities in these friendships, and they had to be deep-rooted old friendships, that thing that makes them real friends.
They stuck with me through my worst times. And they still do.
Coming into the Buddy Games, we don't have a plan. There's no set leader. That's what the cool thing is about this group is we all bring our own skill set.
It is very competitive. Some of the competitions that we have are crazy.
Yeah, buddy!
It's also an opportunity for a lot of these people to rekindle old friendships and sort of relive their youth.
We're all pretty much the entire group around 30 years. I think we're trying to hang on to our glory days. Possibly end of the road, hopefully not, last hurrah, but we're still going. We're still ready. We're amped up for this.
Let's go!
The big cash prize at the end of this thing is $200,000. So they are definitely incentivized to do well.
These are all like my brothers, and we are forever friends.
We are gonna help us win some money.
Let's go
get us!
We met through Derby and we've been friends ever since.
We are rough around the edges.
Yeah, anyone who underestimates us is automatically making a huge mistake.
I think that we'll be more prepared than anybody else, which is gonna help us win this whole thing.
People are gonna watch this and they're gonna be reminded of their friends. This is real and it's playing out right in front of you, and it's hilarious.
All right, don't miss the series premiere of Buddy Games Thursday at 8 p.m. after an all-new episode of Big Brother right here on WCBI. All right, when the overnight stay sends you flying, an Airbnb that has its wings, that's ahead on mid-morning. All right, welcome back. If you're bored with hotel chains when you travel, you can always turn to vacation rentals. Homes, condos, and apartments are available in towns and cities around the country, and some rentals are designed to be part of the experience. Here's a look at a new Airbnb.
I knew it was going to be neat, but I know it was going to be that big or look the way it does where it gets hung up in the trees to make it look like a plane either landed or crashed.
About 19 months ago, Joe Drager had an idea.
When I was searching on Airbnb here a few years back, I saw one in Venezuela, and it had more of a short modified version of just like a cockpit and a small part of the fuselage and a short section of the wing. And I thought it'd be neat, if you're going to do that, to do the whole thing.
It didn't seem that outlandish at the time.
With his contractor, Gary Fleischman, on board, Joe got to work. Thinking he'd have to head out to the Air Force Boneyard in Arizona, he was redirected to Oshkosh.
The Basler Turbo Conversion Company. So I went down there and talked to them, and sure enough, they had one that they said they had taken so many parts off of that it was going to be either scrap or unusable for them, and he sold it to me. I'll let you in the front door.
October of 2022, they hauled the DC-3 World War II era plane to his shop in Antigo to remodel it, inside and out.
Bathroom, shower. It's a short, obviously you don't have a lot of headroom.
We had to empty out the whole fuselage and then put it all back together and then make it, livable, to where people are comfortable in it.
A little kitchen area, sink, table, fridge.
Joe paid 10 grand for the plane, which he thought was a bargain. He's put another $50K into it to get it to where it is now.
Then we just had the 2 trundle beds that these slide out from underneath, and so it does sleep 4.
That's the biggest thing that interested me was just the actual history of the plane, or to bring it back so it still had some of that authenticity to it.
I wasn't sure how it was all going to lay out. Obviously you've got a 60 by 8-foot tube and you have to make it into living quarters.
Every room in the apartment has a view.
That's right.
A forest view one way and High Lake on the other. When the rebuild was finished, they moved the plane to a piece of property in Kempster, 10 to 12 miles north of Antigo. They put it on stilts to give you that airborne sensation.
And had a crane pick it up and then set it over the trees onto the cradle that we engineered or created.
It is my first time ever putting something up this high in the air.
To top it off, they recreated propellers out of big ceiling fans with giant blades hooked up to a converted motor.
They're motion detected, so when you walk up on them, the lights come on and the blades start to spin.
When the sun sets, the fun begins.
But at night, it's all lit up. The wings are lit, the tail's lit, the motors are lit. It looks a little bit more unique at night when it's lit.
For this Indigo businessman, the job met and, shall we say, flew past his own expectations.
I mean, they really are a neat airliner.
So the plane is open for business and the reviews are good. You can find out more information by going to the Airbnb website and searching World War II plane. Joe has 2 other rental properties as well, including a giant treehouse. All right, we'll be right back to wrap things up. Stay with us. All right, be sure you stay connected with us. We'd love to hear from you. See you back here tomorrow. Have a great day.